Hello there, welcome to the channel, welcome back perhaps, and today we are playing around with a little idea that we had, probably another two-parter for you here, that involves inserting in the wonderful Chase Bliss Dark World into this new pedalboard we've got. The main reason that we were focusing on it was because it does actually have a freeze and hold kind of function, unlike the one on the Grand Canyon, which is just out of view here. This is not a delay, it's a reverb, and we were thinking it would be cool to see if we could have some kind of freeze thing going on into Fuzz in the same way that we do with our main pedal, and that the Dark World might be one way to make that happen. Among definitely our first pedals, definitely among our first few serious purchases, and an incredible work. I think that it is definitely a unique setup that Chase Bliss has also exceeded. Not necessarily that the algorithms are in any way bad, but there is a certain how can I put it? A certain kind of ramshackle, maybe, kind of thing to it. It's bringing very disparate things together, and that means that there are some really fascinating combinations that can be made. But also as a mono pedal, it's clearly got its limitations. But, as we will see, there are many things that it can be useful for. So we have three different algorithms here on what I believe is the let's see, where's the little symbols. This thing is dusty. Here we go. On the obne side, I think it is on this side, there are three algorithms: spring, plate, and hall, all things associated with the world. And then on the, I believe it's Keeley effects side, on this side we have black, shim, and mod, which the black is the freeze mode. Before we dive into all of this though, also it's worth noticing that it's the routing here. The reason I say it's a bit ramshackle, and maybe that's not the best word, is that like the ways of routing this can be changed. So that's where things are going to get really interesting. For now though, we have got the Dark World before our Behringer Brassmaster Fuzz. We will be playing around with some different tones on this, which is why we have it also in view, so we don't have to announce whenever we're changing anything. We also have our nightsky further down the chain, and we will probably be bringing that in at some point. So first of all, our contrabass clarinet samples. We're using our basic kind of reverb test samples. We will probably also use our bass range sample, which you will know if you have been on this channel before, maybe even the whole range sample. Let's see what we get into. But first of all, here are the two highest C's on the contrabass clarinet that I am capable of, at least. And we will do it with and without fuzz. Or without and then with, to be more accurate. And we'll give one more fuzz setting example. bit more aggressive then. Okay, now let's take things down to the lower register. These are the lowest C's on the contrabass. Lovely stuff. Okay, now what we're going to do is run through the 3 world algorithms for you, and you can see we've got our tone all the way open here. We've got the mix set evenly, and because we're before the fuzz, we're not going to use the fuzz initially, but basically you can see that the length here, we will be playing with the length a little bit, because for example spring has a lesser length than the others, and I believe the hall is actually a little bit longer than the plate as well. So we'll work from spring, plate, and then hall. We will be turning the fuzz off and on. The other thing that is a factor here is our float, which does deaden the tone of the contrabass a little, so maybe we will also try without that as well. Let us see how things move forwards. So, this is the spring algorithm. So make sure we're on the right sample. We will be using the upper register samples. Very, very pleasant as an effect. Okay, so that was the spring. Some really nice brightness there. The kind of like the ringiness at the end of the spring comes through really nicely through the fuzz. Especially nice without the float. That would of course mean we're getting more tongue attack and key noise if we're playing more complicated stuff, but and nice with the slightly more aggressive setting there. Okay, now we are going to plate, and we may be adjusting this. Yeah, I mean with the spring I can imagine bringing the tone down a little bit and it being quite nice, but yeah, we are trying to relatively quickly run through these. Let's have a listen. Bring that down a little. I mean, not hugely different other than the tail. I prefer the vibrancy of the spring, I think. Definitely more even here. Okay, that was played. I mean, I'm certainly not going to say there's nothing in it. There definitely is, and I definitely prefer the spring. I think the spring just has more to offer there in terms of aggressive energy, metallic energy, like metallic vibes. Let's move on to Hall, which I expect to be the smoothest of the three and probably requiring the shortest length. Let's see. So, the same little sequence. Very smooth. Yeah, not really providing that much. Especially on the tail end, less interesting. Okay, so that's the three, let's say, normal algorithms. Where I think things are going to be getting really interesting is with the more kind of experimental algorithms and bringing them together with these guys. But as a basic conclusion on these guys, I mean, I really think it's pretty clear that the spring has the most potential. I think with all three algorithms we were definitely getting some kind of, like, I think it's probably because of the wet volume being included there, we were definitely getting some of that kind of like just end of reverb trail. That was still a little pronounced with the spring, but I just liked the roughness at the end of the spring. We could probably tame that with some longer lengths, some darker tones to make it even more what we would enjoy. But overall, I'm thinking that that's, you know, like, so the idea of reverb, especially like reverse reverb before distortion, such as fuzz, is associated with shoegaze, right? And that kind of like wash of sound, so maybe with like dark ambient stuff as well, perhaps. But if that is a kind of vibe that we're going for, spring to me seems the most, I mean, spring is the most, I would say, reverse-like of normal reverbs, even though it's not obviously a reverse delay. Anyway, let's move on. And this actually brings us to the dark mode, which is what we were hoping to have work here. And a little bit of a spoiler, it does not work. But we want to show why. So basically what I've done here is I've set the sensitivity to maximum here. That means that any new any new notes that hit it that are detected, it will detect them easily. And this here is basically like the volume of the held signal, and of course, you know, tone can be used to change its quality, but this is its volume. So when this is armed, when I turn on the bypass, then basically like that means that the sensor is active, and we'll listen to that, some of that, and see how it goes. So our previous sample again. So great, it's held. Now, do you see what's happened? Let's go to the low register, just as a full example. Now, what is actually happening here is, rather than, okay, I'm going to turn that all the way down, rather than it triggering the change, like triggering basically a reset of the held signal, it's actually adding to it. So maybe there's something I'm missing in here, but it does not seem to be resetting, it just seems to be adding. So it's as though I'm, for example, playing a strummed chord on a guitar, and it's picking up all of the notes of the strum. That is a feature if you're a guitarist. It is not if you're a contrabass clarinet player. Maybe I could play around with this a little bit more, but like, just to continue the point, we're still in the low register sample, by the way. Okay, cool. So that seems to have reset it somewhat, but it's just very hard to tell. Let's go back to the top ones again, the upper register samples. But like, you hear how that bass is still in there, it hasn't been reset. So again, with that highest note, we haven't actually erased the other notes. Maybe what I need to be doing is setting this more like mid-range. Let's reset this, switching it to another algorithm, then back again. Let's see with it here. Let's see if we get a different result. It's still in there, right? Yeah, so you can hear how it's adding signal on top rather than like cancelling the previous. So maybe I'm doing something wrong here, but I don't think so. So let's get rid of that. My thought then was, well, how about we take off the float and see what happens there. So it is armed, minimum or maximum sensitivity. So no joy there either. And also, did you notice that it picked up the click of the looper being turned on as well, and was holding that? That wasn't erased. So that also does not work. What we can do though is turn that back on, and let's just see how it sounds through the fuzz for fun with that one sound. There's our held sound. Fuzz now on. And that tone, of course, providing some really, really lovely variation there. Okay, so yeah, it does not seem to be working. I don't know whether it's something to do with the frequency of the contrabass clarinet or the attack. My thinking here, though, is that maybe if we put it after the fuzz, it might respond more to how it would to a guitar. So that will be a future little thing that we'll do. However, we are not going to let that deter us, because we have two other fantastic modes here, a shim and a mod. And the mod is some kind of like tape effect where there's like distortion and warble, and the shim has the ability to bring in an octave up or an octave down blended with the dry signal. So that's what we're going to try. We're going to try those things into the fuzz. Let us go. Now we'll start with the shim, and usually around here is where you get the most kind of like glitchy kind of stuff. Any higher and it does tend to get a little bit too short. We will see how we can play with that in a short while. So here is the shim, and I will show you with and without the octave. So this will be, down here will be blending in an octave down, down here will be blending in an octave up. So we'll go like in here. It's kind of like that synthetic kind of sound. Yeah, and if we bring it down kind of like here, we get a little bit more. And let's try with the fuzz. Interesting. Okay. Not fantastic, but what we can do, and one of the great things about the dark world, is that we can route the things into each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the spring reverb, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the spring going into the shim so that it extends it out. So there'll be more going into the shim, like it won't just be the sound of the contra, it'll be the sound of the contra plus at the tail from the spring reverb. So we want that the length up quite high, and we want world into dark here. So let's hear how that sounds. First of all, without the fuzz, and then I'll add the fuzz in. And I'm going to keep it that same kind of like mid-range there for the updo. Yeah, maybe even make it a bit more spaced out, a bit longer. Even longer, maybe. A little shorter next time. Okay, let's try with the fuzz. Yeah, still getting that strange reverb trail there. Yeah, not terrible though. I mean, it's certainly an interesting effect. I wonder though if we have that going the other way around routing wise. So if we have the shim going into a reverb. Let's see how that sounds. Oh, hold on a second. Our previous attempt was invalid. We didn't have the shim turned on. Dear me. Okay, let's revisit that then. Here we go. Yeah, very nice. Hold on. World into dark. So we're extending the shim by having more going into it. Make it a bit more spacey. There we go. You can hear how that's coming together there. Now let's try with the yeah. And if we want to like bring it all that way, I mean, very interesting and worthwhile. Let's see about taming that a little bit. See, now we're getting into some really interesting territory. That's lovely. And we can even put some pre-delay on that spring, so it takes a while to get into. Right, with all that all the way up. I mean, an interesting thing to add, but not essential. Yeah, that's lovely. Maybe we don't need any pre-delay. Also, let's get rid of the tone. Yeah, I mean, and that tone can handle a little bit of taming, but it's very pleasant. Okay, maxing up the space between. Yeah, I don't know, I think I prefer it a little shorter. pre-delay was nice too. Okay, let's just hear the setting that we ended up with there without the fuzz. It's actually quite nice with a little bit more of the dry signal blended in. Okay, so I don't think we need any pre-delay. With a less aggressive fuzz, it's really nice too. Okay, I mean, that's really fun and interesting. I really like that. Very quickly, let's try the other way around. The dark, so the shim into the spring. Fuzz off first of all. Make it as spacious as possible there. Maybe we don't need this spring quite as long. I'll just have a listen through fuzz. Yeah, softer, but still something worth. Now without any octave. Yeah, not hugely special, but like with a reverb. I mean, that blends beautifully with the nightsky reverb that we've got for ourselves. I mean, that's like, yeah, really lovely. Yeah, that's very complimentary. I mean, let's try that previous setting into the night sky. I mean, we had it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much how we had it. Actually, I think we had all that. I mean, we can play with the tone knob a little bit there, but yeah, with the different routing now. I mean, I prefer that. I prefer that kind of aggressive attack there. Let's try with the aggressive fuzz. Yeah. That's just gorgeous. There was one other thing that we were going to mention. We're going to turn the night sky off. There is the option in the dip switches at the back of the Dark World to actually have the pre-delay moving up and down, which causes like a pitch bend. We're not going to get into that in that detail right now, but we can simulate it by wiggling the pitch bend ourselves. let's see how that sounds without the fuzz. We'll see if we can make it happen. That's pretty cool. Let's see how it sounds with fuzz. Yeah, I mean, that would be something very, very worthwhile figuring out a setting for, I think. But this is going to be a two-parter, and the second part is going to be seeing the dark world after the fuzz to see if we can get that black mode working. So maybe that's where it will end up, and I'm sure that there will be some useful things we could do there. For now, though, what we're going to do is go to our final mode that we've got here, and that's the mod. So let's just take a listen to that. In this mode, this is the amount of the distortion, like the tape-like distortion that's added, and this is the length of the reverb. So let's just hear it without any fuzz. And we want the tone all the way open. This is not relevant right now. And that's lovely. Probably more length than we need. Turn the tone down. Let's make it nice and dark. Okay, let's try with the fuzz now. Maybe we don't need all that modify. Through the fuzz, maybe we want a bit more length. And that's a very worthwhile effect. Yep. Now, that's lovely. A couple of things I want to try. First of all, is that effect that we've just got with the night sky. But then we're going to try bringing in the other channel in a couple of different ways. So, here we go. Night sky on. Let's have a hear. Yeah, and definitely subtly distinct from what we made happen earlier with the shim mode, and also in that instance that like the trail that we've been getting through the fuzz because of the dry signal. Is actually, I really like that effect in there too. That's really lovely. Okay, now though, let's take off the fuzz and have a listen. I want to see about bringing the spring into play again. And this time, I mean, there's two ways to do it, right? We can have the mod going into the spring and the spring into the mod. And it's really interesting to think about what differences that might result in, but the best thing to do is just to try it. So, I think we'll just bring the decay down, seeing as it's like two reverbs here. We'll see what we feel about the modify, but first of all, we're going to have the mod going into the spring. Maybe we do want, oh, hold on, channel on, same mistake as before. Oof, that's lovely. I mean, that spring has such a lovely quality to it like that. Let's try this though. Maybe we put the modify all the way up, but with a short tail. And we put it into the spring. Bit of a longer tail. It's definitely a lovely effect. Very ghost-like. However, I am tempted by the other version, which is the mod going into the spring. In other words, the spring going into the mod. Again, let's turn the length relatively low, and I don't think we need the spring at that height either. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be that effective. And this is definitely the spring going into the mod. Let's try the hall. The cleanest of them. Ah, the cleanness of the hall is actually giving us a really interesting variation here. Is it, what's it like without it? Yeah, not really big enough a difference. I mean, if we put that up, put that really low, put the hole up really, really high. It's quite nice. Like the. Let's see how that sounds with the reverb. Sorry, the fuzz. It's definitely an effect. still more inclined to have it the other way, where we have the modify going into the spring. I mean, I wonder what the modify into the hall will sound like. That might be a very pleasant effect. Let's see. Ideally, we will do it without the fuzz. That's quite nice. Or very wispy. Yeah. Bring it up just a little there. Let's see how that sounds through the fuzz. Very interesting. Yeah, I don't think it's giving us anything that we weren't getting before, especially through the fuzz there. I mean, the fuzz is such an evener out of these things, you know, like the subtlety is very nice when it's just the pedal, but the fuzz does not always need or want that. So I'm still feeling that the modify going into the spring was actually giving us the nicest kind of thing. Let's listen to that one more time. I think it was quite a short spring there. At least for now, let's try short spring. Well, let's just put it at noon. Okay, no fuzz. Versus no spring. Yeah, it takes away from it. I think maybe we just need the mod on its own. We can soften it with the spring. I mean, it's different. Maybe what we do is we soften it with the hall. Let's see. Or not. Okay, one must blast. Okay. I think the hole definitely does soften it there. I mean, the spring did somewhat as well. So I mean, that would be two different variations that we could have on that with just by turning the hole on and off, or some other reverb. Okay, well, I think that's fair to say. We have done a good exploration here of what it sounds like having the Dark World before Fuzz. Once again, a shame that the black doesn't do what we want it to, but the others are certainly reasonable options. Let's see what happens when we have the Dark World after the Fuzz. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope this has been as interesting and enjoyable for you as it has been for us. Until next time, I think this is going to be goodbye. And until next time, hope this has been interesting, and stay well.